Dude, I swear if I was funnier, these vlogs would be a lot easier to make. But we can only play with the cards we are here at Geek Out. We got the t-shirt, we got the camera rig. We're all ready. Go on stage at 1 p.m. and then it's back to business. We can imagine anything we want. It's not bound by our senses. It's not bound by our memories. It's not bound by physics. It's not bound by reality. Our minds are able to produce limitless imagination, or imaginings in this case. So in that case, then why is it so hard? Why is it so hard to just imagine whatever we want? At some point, many of us very young when this started, we stopped using our imagination. And why is that? Right? Perhaps at some point, you were comparing your ideas to the ideas of someone else. And comparison is the thief of joy. So you compared yourself and you said, wow, I suck. I'm not that creative. My imagination sucks. Or maybe someone flat out told you that you suck. Right to your face. And here's the hard part. Maybe they were right. Maybe you do suck. But instead of deciding to say, fine, maybe I suck. I'll get better. I'll get way better. You said, I'm not going to try anymore. And you let it completely deflate you. Well, now you learn that you still have that power and you can increase it exponentially in a number of different ways. No trip to Oxford, Ohio would be complete without going to my favorite bagel and deli shop they have up here. Oxford, home of Miami U, a place I'm not a huge fan of for a number of reasons, but it definitely holds some memories. I remember breaking into some of these dorms to hand out show flyers and shit. I had the worst bagel in my life at Panera this morning, and usually I wouldn't eat 2 bagels in one day, but I can't pass up a chance to hit this shop. If you're in Oxford, this is a trip. It's an experience. I'm a big believer that all of life is really just a combination of art and science. It's the same with any creative output. You have the art, that's your creative expression, and it's unquantifiable. And then you have the science, which is all of the data, the mathematics, the experiments. That's the part that really excites me. This whole vlog was an experiment. Most of the things I do on my personal channels for content are experiments. When I was a kid, Dexter's Laboratory was my favorite cartoon. I loved the idea of having a laboratory and running experiments and being able to figure things out. And I never stopped with that love of the scientific method, so to speak. I'm not a scientist by any means. And whether it's with content, business, physical fitness, diet, live events, I love experimenting to see what will happen. The biggest lesson that I've learned so far from putting out the kind of content that I have is that there is a divide between a voice of authority and the actual information. Because you have the voice of authority and then you have the actual content itself. So the value, the truth, the facts, the knowledge, whatever it is. But if someone doesn't view that voice of authority as something that is higher status, let's say, then they typically apply lower status value to whatever it is they're putting out, regardless of its factual truth. And this is funny to me because I've never felt that way. In fact, when someone is a popular content creator or they are seemingly very visually wealthy or successful, I really don't want to hear what they have to say. If it comes across my feed, I'll watch it, of course, but I'm much more interested in what my contemporaries are doing. I'd rather talk to an entrepreneur that's on my level or slightly above than I would talking with Jeff Bezos. It's not that I don't think I can learn anything from Jeff. Obviously, everybody could. It just doesn't interest me in the same way. I did an experiment where I would just say a factoid. The first post just had the text. No quotes, no attribution. The second one had the quotes and who said it. The one that had the quote attribution was more successful on every metric. Reach, engagement, shares, click-through. Because for a lot of viewers, it's more important who is saying it than what they're actually saying. I find it a little bizarre, but as humans, we are constantly looking for indicators of social proof before we make a judgment call on almost anything. I find this a little depressing, but guess what? It's the world we live in. We can't change the rules. We can only play the game as we were given. There's a quote from Henry Ford that says, "Businessmen will go down with their businesses because they like the old way so well they cannot bring themselves to change. Do not wake up tomorrow with last year's ideas." Powerful words. And honestly, they're true and they're powerful regardless of who said them. This might sound like I'm complaining, I suppose, but really it's just fascinating to me. There's a number of examples of this that I've looked into and I've ran. Some are not safe for YouTube. But when it comes to content and sending out my message, I'm not going to stop saying the things that I know to be true and the things that I've experienced from my personal life. My biggest problem is I'm not interested in material things. I don't want a supercar. I don't want to fly in a private jet. I don't want a yacht. My goal is to be happy without these things, because if I rely on those things for happiness, then my happiness can be taken away. If you are truly happy without material possessions and without social validation and without needing and desiring and wanting every shiny thing that runs across you, that's when you're really happy. But how do you show that in an Instagram carousel? You can't. So our context of distribution is affecting the perception of the message. Fascinating. No matter what kind of business that you're operating or what kind of creative output that you are contributing to the world, always remember that the context with which the viewer or the audience or the buyer is seeing your value is going to affect their perception of what they're receiving. They can't just look at the thing. They have to look at the whole picture and then make a judgment call on what they're seeing. Art meets science. Science meet art. Dude, I swear if I was funnier, these vlogs would be a lot easier to make. But we can only play with the cards we are dealt.
Gotta get the cake. Okay, this ain't what you used to. Always with the new, this ain't what you used to. I do me, do you? I do me, do you? This ain't what you used to. 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 This ain't what you. No, this ain't what you used to. Switching from the bikes to a new coupe. You know I keep some new shoes. Keep it simple, not like you. All night, get right. Know you know the price. Know you know the name, no games. I need all my money now, not playing, man. This ain't what you used to. I might fly to LA. This cold weather ain't for me. Hit the